Greetings, everyone. Today I want to talk about Saturn. This is going to be a follow-up video from the first video about Saturn in the chart. Now, Saturn in your chart, if you look at your chart, and if, for example, your chart is in the 8th house or the 11th house, it's going to tell a story. But there are certain things that you have to look at that's going to give you further viewing of what the meaning of the Saturn in your chart. One, the minute value. What I do is quantum astrology, and it entails a lot of those minute, finer details of understanding what goes on in anyone's chart. Now, when you zoom in on your chart, you want to look at the degree and the minute value. That minute that you have on the other side is going to give you a lot of information. And what you got to do is look at it, write it down, and then we're going to go further. Now, in the minute has 60 minutes, and it has 4 zones. Now, those zones are going to tell you a vibe about that zone. The first 14 minutes of the zone is going to be more Martian. This means it's going to be where you're going to be a starter. So if you have Saturn at 6 degrees, 13 minutes Gemini, it's going to be more of a starter, an initiating vibe about it. If it was in the 15 to 29, that's the second zone, it's going to have more of a more public, a more homey sort of family sort of meaning behind it. And then you have from the 30 to the 44, that's going to have more of a relationship sort of vibe about it. And lastly, the 45 to 59, that's going to have a more career outlook in the chart. Now, all you got to do is look at where the minute is, and then you're going to make a placement of which is one of the zones you're going to use. Now, why you do this? You do this because you want to know what further meaning Saturn has in the charts for you. You just not to grab a meaning, because people just grab meanings and place it on. You got to fine tune the chart and find out where this meaning is coming from. And your greatest help is the minute value. Now, the minute, wherever your minute is, that's where we're going to focus. Let us use, for example, say your minute value is at 51 minutes of any degree point. Now, what happens is that you're going to be more in the career, more in a more broadcasting vibe when it comes to getting the meaning for Saturn wherever it's placed in the chart. So let me slow down here. If you have a Saturn, it's going to be in a house. And if you have Saturn, it's going to be on a degree. And it's also going to have a minute. What you got to do is zoom in where the Saturn is at. And you're going to locate where the minute. Now, if you have a minute that is 51, it's going to be more of a career. So you have a minute that is 13. That's going to be more have a starter Martian-like vibe about it. Now let us get into an example. Saturn is in the 11th house, and it has 13 minute value. Now we know that Saturn is going to be The further Saturn for meaning, it's going to grab a meaning that's more going to closer to be initiating, being a starter, being something new, being something pioneering. So that's how we focus on that Saturn. Now, you got Saturn, and you grab that meaning. So yeah, example, so say we use Saturn as career or limitations. So we have Saturn going to have a sporting or initiating meaning for Saturn in the chart. So we would run the meaning as there's something that's going to be a starter, initiator for Saturn. Whatever Saturn you place as meaning for Saturn. So we use Saturn as a career or a limitation. We know that based on that 13-minute value in the chart, we know that Saturn is going to be about you starting something in a career, you initiating. You can be a sports figure in as a career. And that's how you gain more access to the meaning of Saturn in your chart. Quantum astrology is a lot of detailed work involved in gaining the understanding of each planetary body in the chart. You don't want to just give a meaning out of the air and grab any guesswork. You want to zoom in and what is the vibe for that particular person that you're reading or making a reading on. And that's how quantum astrology plays out. There's a lot more involved in what we do with each planetary value. For today, we talk about the minute value. There's also the degree in which it sits. Now, with the degree, as I will make a further explanation as to what we will use the degree as for. And that will be determining whether we're going to use a negative or a positive meaning for Saturn. How we determine that is where it sits. There's a catalog for each of everything in quantum astrology. There's a catalog meaning for the minute value. There's a catalog meaning for the degree point and the aspects. Now, when I look in my catalog and I look for the degree point that Saturn sits on, I will look and see whether it's a negative or positive. And when I look at the other corresponding planet that has a relationship with Saturn, I look at its degree point. Now, whether the degree point is negative or positive, each of these points going to cancel out each other. So if you have a plus for the stationary and for the transiting, you have a negative and you have a negative aspect. What happens is that the negative and the negative will cancel out each other, and what remains will give you the meaning in terms of whether it's positive or negative. In this case of cancellation, it's positive. So the meaning of Saturn will be a positive one. I would like to share with you in the next video of how we get into the depth of each meaning for Saturn for anybody in the chart. And our next video will entail all of that. Boom, boom, boom.